Let's say, for the sake of argument, a long time ago, a bunch of crusaders during the First Crusade decided, right when they took Jerusalem, to make their way down, and right when they found some cool, spooky artifacts, at the first moment they got the chance, decide to immediately drop their faith and start worshiping Satan. And right at that instance, a giant hell portal opened in Jerusalem, and demons started invading the world. In this instance, in this crazy hypothetical, what do? You, a regular person in the world, would you do your best to survive? Would you join up with your particular faith and fight against this demonic horde coming out? Or would you decide, for whatever reason, and join up with said demons and wage war against God? Well, in that fact, we're talking about the Heretic Legions, a very popular faction, because we are touching back into the beautiful world of Trench Crusade. And funny enough, actually, in the overview video I made a good while back, I actually asked, like, what was the faction everyone thought was the most interesting and what they would get into if they got the game. Really, the most popular answer I saw was the Heretic Legions. I don't blame you. They go hard. They look so good, which they're like my second favorite, right behind the Iron Sultanate. They are my like next pick, which I decided, let's talk about Trench Crusade again. They have their Kickstarter. It is going live at the end of October. So I think it's the perfect time to get reassociated with the game, and it's perfect moment for everyone to really figure out which faction you want to get obsessed with before you delve into the game yourself and really put money down. Thank you to my channel members for making all these videos possible, and a huge shout out to Nisafo for subscribing at the highest level. But the Heretic Legions. So the Heretic Legions are the actual main fighting force of the armies of hell, because it's actually a main thing. The demons and like the main demonic entities can't really leave hell. Like, it's not a major thing. So mortals are the ones who are largely waging war for them. And it's noted about a third of humanity, for whatever reason, is actually fighting on the side of hell in the Great War. What is the actual reason they decided to join up with hell? It is kept vague. I think this can be really reasonably assumed for a lot of different reasons. Is this forced conscriptions? Is this corruption that is like taken over, like kind of similar to chaos corruption in 40k, a little bit of sin that then turns into like full-on madness? Is this willful joining up because you are an actual evil person? Or is this a person deciding hell is going to win anyways, I might as well join the winning side? I think you could have a reasonable assumption for a lot of different things. What it does detail is the areas that hell actually controls is horrible. Like, cartoonishly evil horrible. And I would hope so. It's meant to be hell. I'm talking like horrible shit happening in the streets, like sacrifices, people just sitting around carving weird symbols in their flesh, to where then there are giant markets of people selling said flesh fresh off the rack. Oh, you want a bit of thigh? Carving it right off. Which then right next to it, you got giant ovens made in the image of Baal himself, where people are just tossing babies into it willy-nilly. It's insane. It's pandemonium. We also got just giant industrial war complexes, infernal factories that are really harnessing the war machine. The vibe I think you could really put here is like, to bring it also to 40k, it's like very Iron Warriors with like hell forges, dark mechanicum shit. And we also got like Mordor, like dark skies, awful like fumes clouding everything. It's awful. But of course, that's just if you're part of like their controlled territories. What if you actually want to join the Legion, the actual faction we're going to be talking about? Well, you got to make your pilgrimage to the Gate of Hell at Jerusalem. Since this is, you know, the gate to hell itself, this is a laborious process. The Gate of Hell radiates a horrifying heat that burns you both physically and spiritually. You will start to feel its heat miles away from it, to the point where you don't even see it, but you can start feeling its effect on you. If you are not strong enough or wicked enough to withstand it, you will start to burn and just char, but it will not kill you, because that's too simple. And also, hell doesn't do that. It tortures you eternally. And as you're on the approach to the gates of hell, you will see people charred and tortured and just on the ground, fetal position, burned, crying. They're still alive. They were not wicked enough to make it to the gate, and this is miles away. They are not even close to the gate. But say you're cool enough, you actually do get to see the gate. You get there. Congratulations, you are now part of the Heretic Legion. You are a trooper. Here's your gun and your belt, fetus. I assume that is standard issue. But what if you're like extra cool? What if you're like a badass? Well, you could take the pilgrimage a little further. Why don't you take a step inside hell? Just go on, go take a little step inside. I assume it's not bad. No, it's rough. It's really bad to do that. But people do decide to take that little step. Of course, there are 3 outcomes of this. 2 cool ones, one obvious one. You get tortured in hell and shit sucks. Ah, you failed. But if you decide to take that pilgrimage into hell, survive, and come back out of it, you can become 2 special unit types. The first one is if you go into hell, you get burned and scorched in the lake of fire, and you come back out of it. Well, those burns in the lake of fire, they're never going away. Like ever. You are burned for eternity. You're gonna feel that shit forever. However, you get to wear cool armor now. They're gonna slap this big old cool thing on you, and you can never take it off. It's fused to you now because, you know, the burned skin. It's just stuck, kind of welded to you. Sorry. However, you are also stronger because this is like kind of power armor. So you have big, bulky, heavy weapon unit. So good job. This is like actually like a big accomplishment. So you're treated pretty well. And also, this is a feat that can only be accomplished by like actual like scum pieces of shit. Like you have to be really, really awful. So the people who are ascended to this position are known to be horrible and able to commit some of the worst vile acts of just brutality. So don't engage with them, and hopefully they're not coming at you with a big old gun. They're gonna murder you. The other thing you can become is a chorister. Now, in hell, it's a little switched compared to the alternative. Things like sin are considered good things. Now, something like suicide is technically a sin here. Something like suicide is a sin. So, there are people, when they're inside hell, in this instance, that decide, I'm going to exalt how dedicated I am to the cause by killing myself. I guess that's a choice. But this does work, because if you do this, you will become a chorister. Typically, a way this is done, at least set up in the older version of the lore, I think this is going to be updated, but this was done in a very gory fashion. Decapitating yourself, or chopping like your head down the middle, or ripping your guts out, and then out of your blood, a bunch of like viney, weird tentacle shit would come springing out. However, I do know in the Discord, it was actually talked about by the creators, that this can actually be done in a lot of different ways. I think actually, as a method to reach out to like a specific entity, you can actually kill yourself in a way that would appease like a specific person, which is, I guess, a vibe. Not something I thought I'd have to say. And choristers are terrifying. Not my opinion, by the way. That is actually a mechanic that they have, the fear tag, because choristers actually spread terror on the battlefield as they sing hymns. And these hymns give any enemy that hears it visions of hell. The entire shit that I all just described, that is spread to everybody. Now, there are alternate versions of the Heretic Legions that you can play. The variant warbands are essentially alternate methods of play with the same models, if anyone's not actually familiar. These will impose some form of restrictions, but they will alter some of the mechanics, but they are, you know, fun little ways of doing it. There are 3, but 2 of them I think are fun. One of them is just, what if the Heretic Legions were on a boat? And I think it's a little boring. Now the other 2, the Ghost Legion, which is horrifying. So the specific state of the Heretic Legion's soul is kind of goofy and leads to this specific situation. Obviously, your soul is kind of abandoned by God since you've decided to work with hell. But in the battles in the No Man's Land and fighting against all the many different forces in the Great War, especially in areas that are sanctified or unholy, many times these souls are laid abandoned, even by hell. So they are undead, and they will lay there, turning like spectral and undead. Now, they will go crazy and actually attack literally whoever. Just, they see movement, they will attack. Now picture this. You are just a guy. You are part of maybe the Trench Pilgrims or a member of like New Antioch, just whoever. You're going about your business. You see like, oh, that's a little bit of a shrine. We should go check that out. But as you're doing that, you start making your way over, and almost like a horror movie. You see rising out of the muck and blood and barbed wire, these ghostly gas mask wearing World War I ghosts come up and just start firing at you and charging. The whole time, all they're doing is whispering just how they want you to kill them and that they're in pain and they want the agony to stop. Because that's what they're doing the entire time. They're talking about how existence hurts. It's terrifying. It's literal horror movie shit, and I love it. The second one is the Knights of Avarest. Now, this warband is specifically in service to one of the different Dukes of Hell. This one is specifically to the Prince of Greed Mammon, who specifically recruits the wealthy to make him more money, and it's all about money. These are merchant marauders who, they would just really want that fucking paper. They will go out, they will attack people who have that nice good shit on them. They will attack you with precision rifles and poison. They will commit war crimes because they don't want to damage the goods. If they throw grenades at you, all your nice shit might blow up. That's not good. They will then turn around after killing you and sell it immediately. Getting money is a literal religious experience for them. They just want to hoard that wealth. The whole time they're fighting you, by the way, they're decked out in like golden shit. Like full on like gold chain, like capes, full on like rings everywhere, golden masks. It's all over. They just hoard wealth because literally that's what happens when your leader is the Prince of Greed himself. Greed is the whole entire shit. The actual like warband entry is super good and like really long and detailed. I highly recommend just reading it. They're so fun, actually. The idea of painting some of these guys like gold sounds really fun. And then there are a few really cool, unique units that the Heretic Legion have. I already talked about a couple just early on, but just a few more right at the end here. The Death Commando is a really elite stealth unit who's wearing a very cool, unique piece of armor and also a helmet. This helmet actually completely masks their presence from any form of detection, specifically spiritual presence. It actually completely hides his presence from God. Like, God can't even pinpoint where this dude is. And then this big monstrosity is the Warwolf Assault Beast, which is a thing fresh off the, I guess, the industrial line that they slap on some big monster, which this thing is just decked out with a lot of weapons. Its entire task, they throw it out into no man's land. It just carves a path. It rips through barbed wire, rips through people. Just its job is to tear a path so everyone else can like go through. A very good tactic. Like that works really well, especially if you're fighting in World War I tactics. You gotta deal with that barbed wire. You just have to. And then the plus is that it's a big monster that's doing it. And then my favorite, and a lot of people's favorite, I think this is like a catch for a lot of people when it comes to the Heretic Legion. The Artillery Witch. This thing is so cool. Okay, so this mysterious unit is a bunch of women that are really quiet. They never speak, ever. They're just weird, kind of floating, and they just are quiet right in the back. They just stand around, but they have a weird supernatural tie to like the infernal forges or whatever. And when battle starts, they just suddenly open a rift directly to the forges, and fresh off the fucking conveyor belt, they open it right there, reach their hand in, pull out a freshly made mortar that was about to be like tossed on the pile, I guess, lift it up with a finger and telekinetically lob it at people, and they just keep doing that. You don't have to ship the bombs to the Artillery Witch, they teleport it to themselves and then throw it. That is the coolest shit ever. Who needs a cannon? We have telekinesis. I adore that so much. But yeah, that is the Heretic Legions. I am going to be talking about more Trench Crusade stuff in the lead up to the Kickstarter. I highly recommend following said Kickstarter and keeping an eye on more of the stuff they're going to be doing. I love the world of Trench Crusade. I think it's really fun, and I hope to grab some of their models to paint up because they look really cool with the couple of actual models that they've showed off as of late. So yeah, if you like this, like, comment, subscribe, join my membership, and see ya.